Hey guys, it's John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to IFYL. So great to be with you guys tonight. Thanks for popping in. If you're new, why don't you grab that smartphone of yours, launch the camera app, point to my QR code, click on the little yellow oval. You'll get my link tree with lots of great information. Basically, one thing you'll get is John's Daily National Day video, Jason Academy TikTok, John's recent articles, which are really super. In fact, I just wrote one that's really cool. It's called Lights, um, Sound, Camera, Action. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So lights, sound, camera, action. Talks about the evolution of film and what cinematography is. Also, another good one I wrote just recently was, what is USB? The evolution of Universal Serial Bus. I don't know if you guys know this, but three companies, Intel, Microsoft, and IBM, started working on Universal Serial Bus. But only one company actually figured out how to get the train out of the station, hypothetically, and that was Intel. So kudos or hats off to Intel for them doing that. Or we might have not actually had a Universal Serial Bus. All right. So thank you for popping in. We have a great show here for you tonight. And, we roll every Saturday. We start with a new master topic. We roll all the way through the week to a brand new master topic that we finish up on Friday. And if you're coming back, welcome back, friends, colleagues, and wonderful associates. I appreciate you so much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting me. And hopefully some of the new people will become loyal, just like all of you have been for so long. So today is a very interesting day. It's National Nachos Day. Now, you might be saying to me, John, when did Nachos Day start? Well, the first thing that I want to tell you, nachos started in the 1940s, okay? And actually, they actually did not start in Mexico like a lot of people thought. They actually started on the border of Texas, at Fort Duncan in Eagle Pass, Texas. And there are many variations of nachos. There's ballpark nachos covered with jalapenos and melted cheese. There's just plain nachos with cheese that you'll see at some ballparks. And there's different types of flavors and stuff. So I think the interesting thing is that nachos are pretty amazing, and they're quite filling. And National Nachos Day is actually what today is. And I actually went to Dave & Buster's. You guys can check that out by going to believemeachieve.com or clicking on the QR code, clicking on John's Daily National Day video, and you can watch me having some very delicious nachos at Dave & Buster's in Willowbrook, New Jersey. So let's get to that master topic, everyone. I know you're ready for it. Are you ready, everyone? What is AVK? And so what is AVK? What do we mean by that? Well, it means auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Okay? I call them three basic learning modalities. Some people call them learner types. And they're cognitive learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. The challenge is that most people don't understand what they are, and other people teaching it to them don't understand. Now, you might say, gee, how do I figure it out? And maybe you don't have a chance to figure that out right away. So you should always teach to all three learning modalities. Now, that might seem like a lot of work, but it's actually going to emphasize the points better for you, and it's going to make your content a lot more lifelike. Okay. Visual learners are the ones that need to see pictures and graphs to make a connection in their brain. Auditory learners, they need to hear it. Somebody say it, right? The sounds. Kinesthetic has to get a sense. They got to touch. They got to feel it. They got to do it. Now that's pretty cool, right? So there is actually another type, and that's RW, read and write. We don't put that in the main three, but it is important. It's reading and writing. So some people actually make the cognition by reading and writing. Now, when we think about auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, I want to share a secret with you. This is not just about learning. This has to do with everything in life. So, if you're going to buy a car, you actually have a certain language pattern for wanting to buy a car. If you are going to, let's say, learn a new skill, you have a language pattern for that. Maybe you want to understand and compare two things. You might have a different language pattern for that. You see, these subtle modalities that I'm talking about today are very vital. By making these slight shifts of how you learn can greatly impact how much you'll actually retain. Now, we learned something from the other day, which was tell me, I may forget, right? There was another one, show me, I may not remember, but involve me, and it'll become part of my life. When we involve all the senses, that's the best thing. So, kinesthetic, although it's about just touching and getting a sense for things, you'll often find that when someone's a kinesthetic and you add things like visual and auditory, it kind of enhances it, makes it sharper for the person. So, if you know how someone learns, then that's great. It makes it easier for you as the person teaching. But if you don't know how someone learns, then you always should be teaching to all three modalities: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. So, our senses help us to gather information from the real world, send that to our brain, and then we're able to make connections. We're able to, when I say make connections, form neural pathways in our brain from the left to the right, right to the left. And the more we do this, the more quickly and easily we can access information because there's other connections. The challenge comes when there is a teacher and they only want to do it auditorily or they only want to do it visually. And you're not that kind of a learner. It puts a lot of stress and frustration on the learner. The teacher also becomes frustrated, or the professor, because they think the student is stupid. They're not. They think the student is lazy. They're not. They think the student has an attitude. They don't. So for a very long time, professors were trying to get out of teaching different learning modalities. Now they're mostly doing it because they felt that it wasn't something they had to do. But now they're learning that it's an accommodation that everyone needs because we all learn in different ways. And if we all learn in different ways, that must mean that we have to make it easy for everyone. Right? If you're in a classroom and the professor shows you a chart on a screen, and only one or two people raise their hands to answer a question, that probably means that those people are visual learners. But is that fair to the people that are auditory learners? Those are people that store knowledge and engage based on what they hear. Other students, when you teach them only auditorially, they look at you almost with a ghost look like this. They look at you very similar. I'll try to give you the exact analogy like this. Like you're confused, like you don't know what's going on. And so when you have somebody smiling, they're getting it. But lots of times there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, or 15 students in the class that don't get it. So you need to be very on point. Now, I learned this a long time ago, being an engineer. In the beginning, math was not always easy for me because I was not just a visual learner. I had to do it. And so when I did it, it became part of my life. I remember studying for a test, and the teacher would go through the problem on the board, and she would talk about it, but I wasn't grasping it. And it was because for me to make those connections so that the material could be mine, to own it, I had to be taught kinesthetically. Kinesthetic learners transfer knowledge through touch, movement, and motion. Let me give you an example. When I learn how to play sports, I'm a kinesthetic learner. That's a definite. Golf, whatever it is, I need someone to show me, to sometimes pretty much walk my hands, walk my body through the motions, the swing, or whatever it is. And then it clicks after they do that 2 or 3 times. They just say, hey, John, hold the club like this. And I remember when I first learned how to play golf many, many years ago, and I couldn't drive the ball worth of anything. And everyone they would show me, I'd watch them, I'd hear them, John, you're not holding the club right. And finally, I got a instructor that not only was very knowledgeable, but he's like, hey, John, let me walk you through it. I said, okay. And then he comes over and he grabs my arm and he kind of just puts my hand through the swing. I was like, oh. And a light started to go on. I said, we do that again? Yeah. And we did a second time. We did a third time. He's like, I think I got it. Why don't you try it? And I did. And then I made the connections in my brain. So many times in our life, people think that because we learn differently, that we're not smart. Not the case at all. So a visual learner will engage when they see certain stimulus about information. An auditory learner will engage when someone speaks or they hear something. A kinesthetic learner will engage when you create movement with them and they're part of it, when they touch something, when they feel it. So when the golf professional was teaching me how to swing a club to drive better, he walked me through with my hand very slowly to doing the swing with him, kind of like in the movement. And then we sped it up and then I actually did it. And so it's pretty interesting. So a visual learner prefers to read silently. Now, a lot of times when you get ready to go into a class or college, they expect you to be a silent reader. So they're kind of like saying this is the way you have to be. An auditory learner would want to read out loud, and a kinesthetic learner doesn't really want to read at all. So the student has to adapt a little bit, but the teachers need to make sure that they are transferring the knowledge in a method that the student's brain is able to receive it. Let me give you a quick analogy for tonight, and then we'll wrap up. If I'm speaking English to you right now, okay, you understand me. But if all of a sudden I started speaking French, parlez-vous français? Je m'appelle Jean. Et vous? What the heck did I just say? You don't speak French. So, or if I talk to you in another language, comment allez-vous? Bene gracias. Another language, ich möchte die Großmutter in German. What the heck am I saying? That's what it's like when you use the wrong language. Now, language, I'm using loosely. I don't mean it as words. I mean it as modality. So if I input something to the visual and that's not how you're expecting it, well, you're going to not really do much with it. Or auditory, you're not going to do much. Or if I do something kinesthetically, you're not that kind of a learner. So the teacher and the professors need to gear their lesson plans so that they will create the most stimulus. And science has shown us that even if somebody is, let's say, an auditory learner, and we add something else like visual, kinesthetic, the more modalities we add, the greater chance of that person learning, because we've got the predominant one, and they always have a second one. And putting the third one won't hurt. But usually when you teach in at least there are two modalities, it helps. But you always have to teach in three because you don't know what they're going to respond to. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot more to cover on this. I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. And this week we're talking about AVK, auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. And you know what? I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. But remember to like, love, and support the channel. Comment below. Tag your friends, colleagues, and associates. Share this out with everyone you know on social media. And then be sure to go below any one of my videos on YouTube, John Space E Space MORLY Space Serial Entrepreneur, and look for that key phrase, help keep our content free. And make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a savory cup of coffee, a hot chocolate, or perhaps a nutritious sandwich. Either way, we're going to be grateful with those pennies and dollars. We'll invest new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, even new facilities to make sure we're hitting you auditorily, visually, and kinesthetically. But more specifically, to make sure that you hear the messages we're talking about, that you get a clear picture of what we want you to see, and that you get a sense of where you need to be with the feelings we're trying to create inside you to improve the quality of your life so they can be so much better. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow, so take care.